All right, let's jump right in. Today we're going deep with Microsoft, specifically their 2023 annual report to shareholders.
Oh, interesting choice.
Yeah, I thought so too. We're going to hit their business updates, what they've been up to, and their take on the whole AI future, and of course, dig into some financials. Gotta love those numbers.
Absolutely. It's always good to see the nuts and bolts of how these big companies are thinking about the future. And with Microsoft, there's a lot to unpack, especially with AI.
Well, let's get into it. Their letter to shareholders, it kind of sets the stage. They're calling this time a period of historic challenge and opportunity.
Yeah, no kidding. It feels like we're on the edge of something massive with all the economic and geopolitical stuff happening. But, I get it. They're super optimistic about AI. It comes through loud and clear.
Yeah, and I think what's striking is how they connect it back to those past tech shifts, right?
Yeah.
Like with personal computers or the whole internet boom.
The internet, yeah. It's like they're saying AI is the next big wave, and they're all in. They're not just dipping their toes.
Definitely all in. But they back it up with real examples. Did you see the bit about Taiwan's Ministry of Education?
No, tell me about it.
They're using Azure AI, Microsoft's cloud platform, to help students learn English. I mean, how cool is that?
That is pretty neat. Using AI for language learning, that's smart.
Yeah, it shows they're not just focused on the tech itself. They're thinking about the applications, the impact.
Right, and making it accessible too, which makes sense when you see how much they're pouring into their cloud infrastructure. I mean, those supercomputers they're building.
Those are serious.
Yeah, powering things like ChatGPT even.
Wait, hold on. So the brains behind ChatGPT, that's partly running on Microsoft tech.
It is, and it's not just them. Companies like NVIDIA, the graphics card people, and a whole bunch of AI startups, they're all using Microsoft's infrastructure. They're really making themselves the foundation, the backbone of this whole AI wave.
It makes sense though, right? I mean, this cutting-edge AI stuff, you need some serious horsepower to make it work.
Absolutely. We're talking massive data sets, complex algorithms. The computing power required is immense. But it's not just about hardware, is it?
No, absolutely not.
There's this whole data side of things. They talk a lot about their intelligent data platform and this new thing, it's called Microsoft Fabric. Have you had a chance to dig into that?
I've seen it mentioned, yeah. It's all a bit over my head, to be honest. All that data stuff. What's the big deal with this Fabric thing?
Well, think of it this way. The data platform is their foundation for AI. It's how they collect and analyze all the data, and we're talking massive amounts here, that AI applications need to function.
Okay, so it's like the fuel for the AI engine.
Exactly. And Fabric is this game changer. They're calling it a disruptive business model. It's basically bringing together all these different parts of data management, like the actual computation, the storage, keeping it all secure and organized, and putting it all in one platform.
So it's like a one-stop shop for all your data needs, but specifically geared toward AI.
Exactly. Streamlining the whole process, making it easier and more efficient to develop AI applications.
That sounds pretty huge, especially for businesses trying to, wrap their heads around all this data and actually use it effectively.
Absolutely. It has the potential to change the game, making AI development faster, cheaper, and more accessible. But they're not stopping there. They're taking this AI stuff and weaving it into their more familiar products too, like Microsoft 365.
Oh yeah, Microsoft 365. I use that every day. So what are they doing there? I saw they're pretty hyped about Microsoft 365 Copilot, whatever that is. It's coming out later this year, right?
Yeah, they're super excited about Copilot. It's basically an AI assistant, but built right into the apps we use all the time.
An AI assistant in Word and Excel and PowerPoint. What does that even look like?
Well, imagine getting help writing reports, making them clearer and more persuasive.
Huh? That would be nice.
Or what if you could just ask your spreadsheet to analyze data and pull out insights?
Oh, wow. So it's like having a superpowered intern who can crunch numbers and write reports like a pro.
Exactly. That's the idea. And in PowerPoint, it can even help you create presentations, suggest layouts, design elements, even come up with content. It's all about boosting productivity and unlocking new creative possibilities.
Okay, that sounds either amazing or completely terrifying, depending on how well it works.
Yeah.
I mean, what if it takes over my job?
Well, that's the big question with AI, isn't it? But I think the goal here is more about augmenting human capabilities, giving us these powerful tools to work smarter and achieve more. It's a big part of their vision for what they call modern work.
Modern work. It does have a nice ring to it. But speaking of modern work, what about Teams? I feel like everyone's using Teams these days. Any updates there?
Oh, definitely. Teams is huge, and they've made some big improvements. The new version is all about speed and performance, making those video calls smoother and more reliable.
That's always a plus. My internet connection is not always the best.
And they've launched Teams Premium, which has some really interesting AI features baked in.
Oh, like what? Tell me more.
Well, there's this thing called intelligent meeting recaps. So if you miss a meeting or you just need a refresher, you don't have to listen to the whole recording again, the AI will pull out the key points and action items for you.
That would be a lifesaver.
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many meetings I zone out in. But AI to the rescue, huh?
exactly. It's all about making our work lives easier and more efficient. And it's not just about meetings. Remember Microsoft Viva, that employee experience platform?
Viva, yeah. What's happening with that?
It's been growing like crazy, which I think shows that businesses are getting more serious about employee well-being and engagement. They've got over 35 million monthly active users now.
Wow, that's impressive. It's easy to get caught up in all the tech stuff and forget about the human side of things.
It is. And with all this talk about AI and data, I think the next big question that comes to mind is security, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, more tech, more data, it feels like there are more ways for things to go wrong.
Exactly. They're putting a huge emphasis on AI-powered security solutions, talking about the increasing rate of cyber threats and how they're committed to staying ahead of the curve.
That makes sense. What are they doing specifically?
Well, they're using AI to analyze threat intelligence gathered from, get this, trillions of daily security signals.
Trillions? Like, how is that even possible?
I know, right? It's mind-boggling the amount of data they're processing. And they've built this tool called Security Copilot. It combines large language models with all this threat intelligence to, identify and respond to threats in real time.
So it's like having an AI cybersecurity expert on your team constantly watching for trouble.
Essentially, yes. And it seems to be working. Their security business has grown to over $20 billion in annual revenue, and they're protecting over 1 million organizations.
Okay, wow. So they're building the infrastructure for AI, they're developing AI-powered tools for work, and they're making sure it's all safeguarded with this robust cybersecurity. They've got a lot going on.
They do, and we haven't even touched on their plans for, search and browsing or what they're doing in the gaming world.
Oh, right. There's the whole revamped Bing and Edge thing, and then there's Xbox Game Pass and that massive Activision Blizzard acquisition. A lot to unpack there.
It is. Maybe it's time we shift gears a bit and take a closer look at how all of this is playing out in their financials.
Yeah, let's see how these big investments and initiatives are actually translating into dollars and cents.
All right, let's dive into the numbers.
I'm ready. Hit me with them.
First up, their cloud revenue, which includes Azure, Office 365 Commercial, and other cloud properties. It saw a massive jump, increasing by 22% to hit a whopping $111.6 billion.
Wow, that's huge. It seems like their cloud-first strategy is really paying off.
It is, and it's only likely to continue as businesses rely more and more on cloud computing and, all these AI solutions we've been talking about.
Makes sense. What about their stock repurchase program? I saw they bought back a bunch of shares this past fiscal year.
Yeah, they repurchased 69 million shares, spending a cool $18.4 billion on that.
Okay, but what does it actually tell us?
Share repurchases are often seen as a sign of confidence, like the company believes their stock is undervalued and they're betting on their future prospects. Plus, it reduces the number of outstanding shares, which can increase the value of the remaining ones.
Got it. So generally a positive sign for investors. What about dividends? Any news there?
They declare a dividend of $2.48 per share in fiscal year 2022. It shows they're committed to returning value to shareholders.
Okay, so they're investing heavily in growth areas like AI, generating big revenue from their cloud business, buying back shares, and paying dividends. Paints a pretty solid picture of their financial health, wouldn't you say?
It does. But they're not just focused on short-term gains, They're also making some significant investments in the future.
Like what?
Well, they've committed to expanding internet access globally, with a goal of connecting 250 million more people by the end of 2025. And a big part of that is bringing internet access to 100 million people in Africa.
That's a pretty impressive initiative. Ties back to that idea of democratizing access to technology, right? Making sure everyone has the opportunity to benefit from these advancements.
Exactly. And it aligns with their overall vision of using technology to empower people and create positive change.
Okay, so we've got business updates, a deep dive into their AI strategy, and a look at their financial performance. Anything else we should cover before we wrap up this part of our deep dive?
You know what? There's one more thing I think is worth highlighting. It's a bit technical, but it's important. It's their operating margin.
Operating margin. Okay, lay it on me. What's the significance of that?
Well, it's basically a measure of profitability. It tells you how much profit they make for every dollar of revenue they generate.
All right, so what does Microsoft's operating margin tell us?
It's been increasing steadily over the past few years, which is a really good sign. It indicates that they're becoming more efficient. They're squeezing more profit out of their operations.
So it's not just about revenue growth. It's about making sure that growth is profitable and sustainable in the long run.
Exactly. And that's where this focus on operational leverage comes in. They're constantly looking for ways to, align their costs with their revenue growth.
So as their revenue goes up, they're finding ways to become more efficient and manage those costs effectively.
Precisely. And that discipline is going to be essential as they continue to make these massive investments in, cloud infrastructure, AI development, new gaming ventures. Those are big bets that might take a while to pay off.
It's a balancing act, for sure. Investing in the future while also making sure the present is financially sound.
And they seem to be striking that balance pretty well. They're not just chasing the latest shiny object. They're making these calculated strategic decisions that position them for long-term success.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive so far. We've uncovered a lot about Microsoft's current state and their vision for the future.
We've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's still so much more to explore, like their plans for search and browsing, their ambitions in the gaming world, and of course, all those big ethical questions surrounding AI.
Right. We've got a lot more ground to cover, so stay tuned for the next part of our deep dive into Microsoft's world.
So, we were talking about all the areas Microsoft is active in, and one that's really interesting to me is how they're trying to change things up with search and browsing.
Yeah, they've given Bing an edge, like a total makeover, haven't they? And it's all about AI, which I have to admit, I haven't really used Bing much in the past. Is it actually worth checking out now? Like, can they really take on Google?
Well, what's cool is they're not just trying to copy Google, they're doing something different, bringing together search, browsing, even chat, all powered by AI. They're calling it an AI copilot for the web.
An AI copilot. So it's not just about finding websites anymore. It's about having a more, a smarter experience.
Exactly. More interactive, more personalized, and it seems like people are digging it. The report mentions something like over 1 billion Bing chats and 750 million images created with Bing Image Creator.
Wow. Okay, those are some serious numbers.
Yeah.
I guess people are open to trying something new if it actually delivers.
And they're definitely going after businesses, too. They've got this Bing Chat Enterprise, which is all about data protection and security, which, for companies worried about that kind of stuff, that could be a big selling point.
Oh, for sure. Data privacy is a huge deal these days. And speaking of data, we can't forget about LinkedIn. Where does that fit in all of this?
LinkedIn. It's becoming a really important part of their AI strategy, but in a different way. They're using AI to, make those connections, between people and opportunities and experts. It's becoming more than just a place to hunt for jobs.
Yeah, I've noticed that. They've been pushing a lot of AI-powered learning content, helping people build new skills and stuff. It's kind of smart.
Exactly. They're positioning themselves as the hub for professional development, especially in this age of AI where everything's changing so fast. And it's working. Their revenue has blown past $15 billion, which just shows how vital they've become in the professional world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from their cloud infrastructure and these AI-powered tools for work to their focus on security and even their plans for search and, shaking up the professional networking scene with LinkedIn. But there's one big area we haven't touched on yet.
And what's that?
Gaming.
Ah, yes, gaming. Massive industry, huge potential. And Microsoft's clearly making some big moves to be a major player.
Well, they've got Xbox Game Pass, which seems to be changing how people play games. It's like the Netflix of gaming, right? You pay a monthly fee and get access to a ton of games.
Exactly. It's all about access and convenience, and it's been a huge success for them. They're also hitting it out of the park with their new releases. Did you see Starfield?
I heard about it. That's their big new space exploration game, right?
Yeah. Over 10 million players already, just in the first month.
That's insane. And then, of course, there's that whole Activision Blizzard acquisition, which was a pretty massive deal.
Yeah, that one's still sending shockwaves through the industry. It really shows just how serious they are about becoming, a gaming powerhouse.
Okay, so we've explored their big strategic pillars, the whole AI push, how their financials are looking, and even their ambitions in the gaming world. We've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And I think it's clear that Microsoft is in a really strong position right now. Financially, they're solid. They're putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to future technologies like AI, and they're tackling important issues like, security and internet access.
But with all these advancements, especially in AI, there are bound to be challenges, right? Things to think about carefully.
Oh, absolutely. As AI gets more powerful, more integrated into our lives, we have to consider the implications. It's not all sunshine and roses.
Exactly. Like, what about bias in algorithms? Or jobs being replaced by AI? What about data privacy? And then there's that whole philosophical question about, what does it even mean to be human in a world where machines are getting smarter all the time?
Big questions, no easy answers, but these are conversations we need to be having now as we're navigating this new technological landscape.
Well said. And I think we've given our listeners plenty to think about today. We've really delved into Microsoft's world, exploring those business updates, their vision for the future of AI, and their key financial insights.
We've also touched on their ambitions in the gaming world, their efforts to reshape search and browsing, and, as you said, the importance of addressing those ethical challenges of AI.
Because at the end of the day, technology is a tool, and it's up to us to decide how we use it and what kind of future we want to build with it.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
So to all our listeners out there, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those brains engaged.
And until next time, keep diving deep. Thinking about everything we've talked about Microsoft, all their different moves, the cloud, the AI, it strikes me that there's this, a common thread running through it all.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
It's like they're building this interconnected ecosystem. Every piece kind of feeds into the others. They've got the infrastructure with Azure, the AI tools with Fabric and Copilot.
Right.
And then they're using those tools to, make their existing stuff even better, like Microsoft 365 and Bing, and even push into these new areas like gaming.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's not just a bunch of random projects. It's more like a holistic strategy, right?
Exactly. It's all connected, creating this synergy that honestly could give them a real advantage over the competition.
And it's working, right? At least if you look at the numbers. We talked about their cloud revenue. It's huge. And the stock buybacks, the dividends.
Yeah, they're definitely not hurting for cash. But what I find even more impressive is their focus on profitability. Their operating margin, it's been climbing steadily, which tells me they're not just growing for the sake of growing. It's sustainable growth.
Right. Because it's one thing to bring in the money, but you got to make sure it's actually translating into profit long term.
Exactly. And that's where their focus on operational leverage comes in. It's all about aligning costs with revenue growth.
So as they grow, as that revenue goes up, they're finding ways to be more efficient, to make sure those costs don't spiral out of control.
Yeah, exactly. Which is super important when you think about the kind of investments they're making. Cloud infrastructure, AI development, those gaming ventures, these are big long-term bets.
It's a tough balancing act, isn't it? Investing in the future, but also making sure the present is, financially sound.
And they seem to be doing a pretty good job of it. They're not just chasing the latest shiny object. They're thinking strategically, making decisions that set them up for success down the road.
Well, I think we've done a pretty good job of breaking down Microsoft's current state and their vision for the future. We covered a lot. Business updates, their AI plans, the financial side of things.
And we dug into those gaming ambitions, how they're trying to reshape search and browsing, and of course, those big ethical questions around AI, which, can't be ignored.
Absolutely. Technology, especially something as powerful as AI, it's a tool, and it's up to us, all of us, to figure out how we use it, what kind of world we want to create with it.
Couldn't agree more. It's a responsibility we all share.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Microsoft. To all our listeners out there, as always, stay curious, stay informed, and keep those brains engaged.
And until next time, keep diving deep.